Transport chief vows to step down if he's at fault in high-speed rail delay. South Korea's president to disband the Coast Guard over the Sewol ferry disaster, and more Chinese nationals evacuated from Vietnam.
Good evening. The Secretary for Transport and Housing, Anthony Cheung, said today he will resign if he's found to be at fault over the construction delay of Hong Kong's high-speed rail project. However, CEO of the MTR Corporation, Jay Walder, denied any wrongdoing on his part, saying he will not quit. Evelyn Leung reports.
The government and MTR management attended another LegCo Railway Subcommittee meeting this morning. They again offered an explanation to lawmakers for the high-speed railway construction delay.
As the Secretary for Transport and Housing, I've always been going by the principle of being professional. My report given to the administration is based on the professional assessment of the Highways Department. I will never allow politics to go before realistic assessment.
You are the Secretary. Your lie is ugly. You want to save yourself and at the expense of your position as Secretary. An accountable official will shoulder the responsibility squarely. If in the future this independent expert committee has an observation or found information that I have to shoulder responsibility as Secretary, I will resign.
MTRC CEO Jay Walder, on the other hand, insisted he will not step down.
My responsibility to continue to lead the corporation in this time, to move the project forward according to the plan that we have put forth.
But not everyone agrees.
He is a CEO that has a take-home pay of 13 million Hong Kong dollars a year, plus share bonuses, and his sole job, he has admitted today, is to wait to be notified every day. He will go into the office every day and say, you guys have a problem, you come to me. If not, fine, I'll leave you alone. That seems to be his style. So clearly, other than Mr. Chu, who I think covered up a lot of things without reporting upwards, the other party that's causing the whole uproar is his boss. Right? So basically, it's two people creating this whole issue.
Michael Tan also stressed there is no reason to hold any more inquiry meetings on this controversy, as additional meetings won't reveal anything more than what the LegCo Railway Subcommittee has already found out.
Tian also said he doesn't believe the Secretary for Transport and Housing was deliberately trying to hide the truth. He simply failed to take a firm stance on the issue. The lawmaker pointed out this is a lesson learned for the government, and that it should realize by now that the board of the MTR needs immediate reform. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
The first of two Chinese ships sent to Vietnam on a rescue mission is due back in Hainan Island tomorrow. It's part of an ongoing operation by China to get its citizens out of Vietnam following last week's deadly riots.
These workers looked a relief bunch as they got off the plane and stepped onto the tarmac at the airport in Chengdu today. They were on a special flight from Vietnam, part of a massive effort by China to get its citizens out of the country following last week's deadly wave of anti-Chinese riots. Many of those on board today's flights were suffering from injuries sustained when their factories came under attack by rioters. Beijing hasn't only chartered flights to get its citizens away from danger. Two ships arrived at a Vietnamese port today as part of the evacuation effort. One vessel has already left with more than 900 on board and is due to arrive at Hainan Island tomorrow. One analyst noted that using ships sends a message to the world that the situation in Vietnam is unstable and grave enough for China to take drastic action if push comes to shove. Tensions had been simmering between the two countries and came to a head last week as China moved an oil rig into waters which Vietnam claims it has exclusive economic rights to. Beijing disputes this, saying the rig is closer to an island it has control over, meaning it has economic rights to develop this stretch of disputed waters. Hanoi doesn't see it that way, and nor do many ordinary Vietnamese, some of whom apparently were among those who damaged around 400 factories in the country. Many of these factories were not just mainland Chinese run, but also Taiwanese and even Japanese, apparently targeted mistakenly or by gangs intent on looting. Vietnamese authorities appeared slow to respond to the riots, but have since cracked down, given the violence threatened Vietnam's reputation as a safe and cheap place for foreign manufacturers.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says relations with China are a top priority. Putin made the comments ahead of a trip to Shanghai tomorrow to attend a summit on improving cooperation in China. The conference is scheduled at the same time navies from both China and Russia are set to begin joint exercises in the East China Sea. The Joint Sea 2014 naval drills will run for a week and focus on operational responses to maritime security threats. Putin will also pay a state visit to China on the sidelines of the summit. Both countries are close to signing a deal on natural gas exports to China. Putin is also expected to discuss high-tech trade and investment when he meets with President Xi Jinping. South Korea's president has formally apologized for a ferry disaster that left about 300 people dead or missing. In an emotional, nationally televised speech, Park Geun-hye announced plans to disband the Coast Guard and promised an overhaul of the way the country handles marine safety. James Aitken reports.
It was the first televised address to the nation by South Korea's president since the disaster began to unfold in mid-April. Park Geun-hye says she hasn't slept well for days because of her anguish over the loss of so many young people. The final responsibility for not properly dealing with this incident is placed on me, she said. But she also singled out South Korea's Coast Guard, calling rescue operations a failure. It's been the target of growing public outrage over allegations of poor coordination and slow search and rescue work during the early stages of the sinking. Today, Park announced plans to disband the Coast Guard and root out corruption. She promised to push to transfer its responsibilities to the National Police Agency and a yet-to-be-established government safety agency. Soon after Park's address, the head of South Korea's Coast Guard said they would humbly embrace the president's plan to disband. Commissioner General Kim Suk-kyun also promised to find the last 18 missing passengers. That wasn't good enough for some of the family members. One woman interrupted the address to ask why there was no mention of rescue and recovery operations in the president's speech. Later, a spokesman for the families pressed the government to do everything possible to find the last missing passengers. Park ended her speech by calling the people who died in the disaster the real heroes of our generation. 339 of the passengers were children and their teachers who were on a field trip when the ship went down while on a routine voyage to the holiday island of Jeju. More than 1 month after the sinking, 286 bodies have been retrieved. All surviving crew members have been indicted on charges of negligence. The captain and 3 senior crew members are also facing homicide charges. Senior officials from the company that operated the ferry have also been arrested. James Aitken, TVB News.
To Thailand now, where pro- and anti-government supporters rallied in Bangkok, vowing that the week ahead would be a crucial one in the battle over who governs the country. Anti-government demonstrators marched through the Thai capital, calling for a huge turnout of people to join them. Their protest leader, Sutap Thakksuban, is warning that there won't be any more protests held after May 26th. He's vowed to surrender to authorities if he fails to succeed in ousting the government and getting an unelected Prime Minister appointed by May 27th. At the same time, thousands of government supporters, known as Red Shirts, are also carrying out their mass protests this week. But election authorities warn that if the political unrest persists, the July 20th general election will be cancelled. A Libyan militant group with alleged links to al-Qaeda has vowed to lead the fight against the Libyan general whose troops took over Libya's parliament on the weekend. On Sunday, forces loyal to General Khalifa Haftar, a former rebel against ousted leader Muammar Gaddafi, stormed the parliament in the Libyan capital, Tripoli. At least 2 people were killed in the fighting to take control of parliament. Hifter says he suspended the house in a struggle against the Islamic lawmakers and officials who he blames. Libya's leadership has struggled to control the country since Gaddafi was removed from power in 2011.
In Europe, the death toll is rising across some Balkan states where historic floods continue to wreak havoc. As Sonia To reports, floodwaters have killed 35 people so far, and it's now threatening to breach Serbia's main power plant.
With catastrophic flooding as far as the eye can see across the Balkans, a state of emergency is in effect. Entire towns and villages have been laid to waste. Over the past 3 days, the equivalent of 3 months' worth of rain has pounded the region and unleashed 3,000 landslides. With so many rivers bursting their banks, non-stop helicopter rescue efforts have been launched to get the masses to safety. With his home almost completely submerged, this man knows it's now or never. Others stranded in their homes take desperate measures to be rescued from their rooftops. One by one, entire families and their pets are saved from danger. This man is carrying all he has left in the world. But he's wrought with guilt after watching the floods wash away all his farm animals. Downriver in neighboring Serbia is a race against time. People are working fast to build sandbag defenses before rising floodwaters breach their biggest power plant. The floods have already rendered tens of thousands of homes powerless in Serbia. If this plant goes, 1/3 of the entire country will lose electricity. For now, the 25,000 people evacuated to safety remain in shelters where sob stories of loss can't be avoided. Everything is ruined, all the animals are dead, and I don't even know where my husband is, cries this woman. Large swaths of Croatia also took a beating where hundreds have fled the destruction. Humanitarian aid is trickling in from Russia and several European Union member states, including Britain, Germany, and Austria. Sonia Artero, TVB News.
Turkish news reports say there were high levels of toxic gas inside the coal mine, which has been the scene of Turkey's worst mining disaster. Media report claims sensors inside the mine showed high levels day before the fire, but no action was taken by authorities. The disaster has triggered nationwide protests, with many blaming the government for lack of oversight. Also today, Turkish prosecutors formally arrested 2 more people in connection with the disaster in Soma, which left more than 300 dead. The arrests mean there are now 5 people facing charges of negligent death.
Still ahead in the news tonight. 1,000 endangered trees fall victim to illegal Agarwood logging. A new landmark at the Central Harbourfront as early as September this year, and 2 legislators suspended jail sentences reduced to fines.
Wingxing Photo Supply's 40th anniversary presents Wild Brazil from Pearl Spectacular.
That is a disaster.
The chefs are a mess.
Ah! What was that? You burnt the bread? This is your worst performance.
This looks really bad.
Thursday and Friday, MasterChef at 8:30 on Pearl.
下一個係邊個？冇？咁好啦！勁量鹼性電芯採用電力封存科技，發揮高達3倍電力，俾你玩多啲，換少啲電。勁量就是正能量。
Taxis racing. Sorry about that. Free runners and a bike in the building. A red car air.